Hello everyone, my name is Mark Latham. I am the music director of the wonderful Wellesley Symphony Orchestra, and I will be spending a little time introducing the concert we will be performing on Sunday, let me get it right, September the 28th at 2 p.m. here at MassBay Community College. It's a very interesting program, 3 works, and we have called this program Beauty and Descent. Why have we called it Beauty and Descent? The first piece on the program is called Path at Sunrise, Masses of Flowers by the American composer Margaret Brouwer. And she says the following. She invites us to visualize the following. She says, visualize walking down a path in the quiet of early morning at sunrise. The sun gradually rises on masses of flowers, planted closely, jumbled together in a profusion of vibrant and delicate colors and myriad textures. Picture walking through this beauty with a mix of personal emotions, sadness, acceptance, gratitude, and appreciation for the beauty of the flowers and the sun. So, Path at Sunrise, Masses of Flowers. She mentions, of course, a mix of emotions, sadness, beauty, gratitude. And we encourage the listener to these works, the other 2 works being the first symphony of Hovhaness, called the Exile Symphony, and then the wonderful 5th Symphony of Dmitri Shostakovich. So we invite the listener to find the gamut of emotions that all 3 works explore in sound, in symphonic sound. And the second piece we're playing, the Exile Symphony, Hovhaness, who is an American of Armenian descent, was dedicated to his hero, the philosopher Francis Bacon, the English philosopher. And Francis Bacon says the following: in order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. I make these comments because I know, we all know, we're living, are we not, in challenging times. There's strife, there's disagreement, there's disharmony, but there is also always the chance for beauty. We don't deny the grief, we don't deny the disharmony, but we also don't deny the fact that there are many beautiful things all around us, in fact, all of the time. So the Exile Symphony of Hovhaness, you might say, is something very beautiful, born out of great distress. It's, in a way, an homage to the genocide of the Armenians in 1915, who were slaughtered by the Ottoman Turks. And Hovhaness' father, in fact, was born in Ottoman Turkey. So this is, in a way, a paean to those slain in that terrible event. At the same time, it's, as a listener will discover, extremely beautiful. It uses Eastern melodies, Eastern rhythms in a way. It has a sort of fantastic choral fanfare, particularly in the 3rd movement, very rousing stuff. So this too contains beauty and grief, as does indeed the final work of the program, which takes the second half, the 5th Symphony of the Soviet composer Dmitri Shostakovich. So in the 1930s, Stalin had completely solidified his grip on power, and to further do so, particularly in 1936, 1937, which some people call the years of terror, many of his enemies, or perceived enemies, were either shot or sent to the Gulag. And Shostakovich himself fell victim to this era of Soviet history. In 1936, Stalin himself attended a modernist opera that Shostakovich had composed earlier, called Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district. And Stalin walked out before it had finished. Not a good sign for Shostakovich. a day or two later in the state newspaper Pravda, an article appeared, Muddle instead of music. And the article concludes something like, this composer had better watch his ways or something dreadful might ensue. And Shostakovich, as he should have done, took this threat seriously. He withdrew his Fourth Symphony, which he'd been working on, took some time off to sort of figure out what he should do and how he should do it to survive, essentially. And a year and a bit later, he produces one of his symphonic masterpieces, certainly the most well-known of his symphonies, the Fifth Symphony. And it was performed to huge, enormous critical success. It is quite dissonant in a way, and particularly in the first movement and the third movement. And the work, however, ends on a triumphant, long D major blast of brass and timpani and the strings in a glorious manner. What did Shostakovich intend to say with this glorious ending? I think he intended just to survive, in fact. The opening notes of the work in the first movement are very rhythmic, quite dissonant. They don't tell us where they're going exactly, but in a few short bars, where in a quite calm D major presence, and then the movement wanders about exploring, as I said before, all the emotions. The second movement is almost an upbeat, rather sardonic movement in 3/4 time, and then the third movement, which is really the long, extended exploration of sadness, of disturbance, of grief, of angst, of anxiety, and it features the strings in particular with these intense emotions. And that immediately goes into the fourth movement with this huge blast in the timpani and the percussion, and then the brass come in a sort of a march, and we go from there all the way to the glorious ending. Some people make the conjecture that to some extent Shostakovich was thumbing his nose at Stalin. He gave them what he wanted, but just in the final closing minute or two of this long symphony. That may be true. There are some who say that Shostakovich saw himself as what was in Soviet times called, or in Russian history called, the holy fool. And when you were the holy fool, it's a bit like our jester in English history. So the jester could say what he wanted to the king or the queen. And so similarly, the holy fool can say things as they are and in Stalinist Russia and get away with it. So it may be that hidden in this music are things that Shostakovich couldn't openly declare in those years, those terrible years of Soviet history. And it could be that the glorious ending is, okay, I'm giving you what you want, but it's still a symphony of grief in a way, of dissent, as well as beauty. So yes, please do come and participate in these three remarkable, wonderful, beautiful, tragic, glorious works. Shostakovich, Alan Hovhaness, Margaret Brouwer, on Sunday, September 28th at 2 p.m. in MassBay Community College. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you there.